Alright, let's look at a few rook endgames. In the first one, the thing we notice first is that the black king is cut away on the f-file. That makes this winning position for white. The black rook is quite excellently placed here to be able to give checks from the side. Let's look at first what would happen if they tried to cut us off, like saying you're stalemated, sandwiched between the king and the rook. But then white can just check here and turn it into the loosen up position, basically building a bridge with the rook g4. And now we get the old faithful. Oh, here you can wait, but let's say check. And this is the bridge we built. If you waited here, then we have the rook g5. Next go here. Anyway, so any kind of a restriction doesn't work. Black's best try is to give checks. And here white runs away, threatens to promote, show checks, checks. King e6. Now if black goes back here, it's gonna get checked from this side again, and the king goes here, and now you can pin it for a second, but then king f8, and then we're gonna promote and win easily. So the best black can do still is to keep checking. Now white has to be a little careful. Basically, he has to get to g-file to be able to block the checks with the rook. Otherwise they're gonna be infinite. But he has to do it in a way that he doesn't lose the control of f7 and let the black king into the game. So here we have to be careful and not go king f5 and allow this. So king e5 instead, have this controlled by the rook, and after the check, then we come here when we have to cross the f-file to control the f7 with the king. And now black can keep checking, king g5. This always fails to a check promotions. So after here, they can still keep checking, but now the checks run out after rook f6 finally. And now we're trying to check and promote. So black has to go to the back rank to stop that, but then rook d6. And we are trading rook d8. Well, either you go here and allow it, or you go here and, well, you can't do anything about it. You're gonna get checkmated next move anyhow. Let's look at another example where the rook's not able to, well, the king is not cut off. The rook's a little bit restricted on e8. And now black has the scope with the rook to give checks from the behind or the side. White can't really do anything about that. From the, well, king moves don't really make much sense. You're gonna get checked a lot. Eventually you have to run and hide back to the e7. So the only way to make any kind of a sensible progress is to go here and side from the set checks from the side. And that's what black's supposed to do. And then white covers this. If they go here trying to push the pawn, then king f6 wins the pawn by force. We're gonna go rook e7 next. Even if you protect it, just pick it up and draw. So this is the only way that makes black's defense a little harder. And then you have to go to the back rank. This still holds a draw, but maybe gets a little harder. But this is the easier way. Just deny this. White has some options. For instance, king d6. Then we can sneak the king under the pawn. And for instance, e7, we just run here and let's go here. We give a check. And here, important things. You have to cover the d8, but you cannot trade the rooks without ending in a lost pawn endgame. Bing bang, a white wins. But here we can, as a black, can just go back here, cover this, and there's not really a way for white to make any kind of sensible progress here. Either you move the rook away and you allow checks and picking up the pawn. Well, this doesn't threaten anything, so now we can just wait a second. On the other hand, for instance, going for the skewer here, now white can make, or black can make some room for their own king by checking and then going to a1, where it has again the flex to go checking from either side, wherever the king goes. For instance, threatens the mate. We just check him away and go back here. And black's king is going to be very cozy around here in front of the pawn. White can do whatever he wants, but it's never gonna make any progress because we can check you away. Well, probably infinite checks at this point. Best and trickiest try here is the rook c7. As the right move is rook a1. If you go rook b8, you get a little, you want to have a distance between the rook and the king. And now rook c1 instead. Now you give a check, side checks, but then king d8. Keep checking them, but suddenly rook c8. Now if you go here, you get, white can trade the rooks and go here and support the pawn through. And if you go all the way here, then e7, give the check, king e8. Well, actually, that's unnecessary here. You can go here, and this is unavoidable. I mean, can't guard the square with both pieces. You can give checks here, but then we're gonna go here, and then we can zigzag the king, for instance, all the way here, and can't do anything about the promotions. Just avoid any kind of a mess up with the trying to zigzag on the c file where we lose the rook, or e file where we allow the checks on e file, and then that king f7 would cover the square. But a and b file are safe ways to zigzag towards the rook. So here, after rook c7, it gets a little tricky, but we should again come here. And now white has some options. This doesn't really make any, well, it's a check, but then king can go to f6. Again, this fails to check, and e7, and the pawn's gonna go through. But here we have a king f6. You can check our king away. Now you cannot push the pawn without dropping the rook. And even if the rook goes all the way here, now you see why the distance to checks are important here. White king lacks cover here. It's gonna get checked forever and ever. There is no hiding in the f8 because nobody can cover. Wherever you go, you're gonna get checked a lot. Well, ever if you go there, then we are gonna easily sneak the king into and capture the pawn. Oh, probably this way too. Even easier. I mean, well, you can try some kind of a forever route there, but and I mean, whenever the king goes too far, we can come here and go under the pawn here. So white can also try king here, and again, king g8 runs into a rook c8. And now there's no checks. If you go, for instance, under the pawn, we just push that forward. Now we are threatening to come here. We check. For instance, black just waits, check, and promote, and win. So this fails. Well, you can maybe try this kind of a waiting move here, but then the rook d8 frees the king. And again we go here and check. The problem is that this runs to that. But here, black still has a defense, king f6, hitting the pawn, so it can't really, white has no checks here. Doesn't make any sense, you get just checked and the black's gonna pick up the pawn, so the pawn has to go forward, but then only move rook check here, and now we are in time to defend the e8. Now there is no checks on f8. And white can't make any progress here. Rook here, we can go here for instance. Threaten to take this, and if he goes here, well, it's not gonna make any progress. And if the rook ever leaves this to give a check and kick our king off the e8 square, we're gonna give you a lot of checks now. Well, actually we can take the pawn now too. But also checking and all any blocks, we just take. But yeah, usually this is an excellent square, but also it has options to go both ways all the time. In many of these rook endgames, you need flexibility to be able to check from both sides. But of course, it's always concrete.